and we're literally going to title it "Lucas Comes Out of the Closet."
No. We're not gonna title it that.
You ain't black.
And you ain't black.
Conservatives got to come out of the closet now. And it was recently, I was at dinner with a couple friends of mine, and I specifically had to have the talk with them, right? I had to sit them down and talk with them about, hey, you know, I'm going this way with a lot of my political ideology, so I don't want you guys to just see a random clip or see one of my YouTube feeds or one of my Instagram feeds and say, oh my God, I didn't know my friend Lucas, you know, believed in this, or I didn't know he liked Trump, or I didn't know he called Joe Biden Jim Crow Joe. So I just had to let them know, like, yes, like, you know, this is what I believe in. Just in general, you know, I don't believe that children can choose their gender. I believe that there's a man and a woman. I believe in mothers and fathers. And, you know, so I don't want you guys to get thrown for a loop when you see me, I guess.
You see it coming out on the videos and stuff,
When you see it coming out. I mean, can you guys relate to that? It's like a secret until you're like, it, I'm coming out.
So how did it go? Was it well received?
It actually went well received. They actually, and that's how I know that these are true friends. They actually commended me pretty much and was like, yo, you know, Lucas, we know you and your heart. You're a good person, a good friend. Yeah. So we actually like that you standing up for what you believe in. Yep. They supported that.
I wish my best friend would have said that to me 40 plus years.
Yeah.
Oh, rough. Did you lose your best friend?
Haven't talked to him in months. I told you that.
Yeah.
One of his kids goes to Northwestern, actually.
Shout out to Evanston.
But it's just, are we recording again?
No, we're still going, man.
But yeah, so going years ago when I came back to Sacramento, I met this fundraiser with one of my clients.
It's still going.
No, we're still going.
We're still going.
Well, so here's my coming out moment. So I, you know, growing up in Sacramento, being Jewish, back when I grew up, it was a 99.5% chance you're a Democrat.
Literally, so just like the black community that I grew up in.
I came back into town in the mid 2000s or somewhere along that, and I was at a big fundraiser with one of my more well-to-do clients that was well known around Sacramento. Very quiet because nobody knew that I was her banker, and we were having this conversation with a few other business people in town, and I knew my client was conservative. I did too. There was at least one or two other Jews in the conversation, so they just assumed me. Well, we were both getting. I'll leave her name. Carol and I were both getting bored with the conversation, and we had these codes to to detach, to cut the, you know, if we wanted to get away. And she tapped my foot, and because the conversation was getting way political, I didn't want to talk about anything because my views differed from everybody else's that was in there. And so she taps my toe, and it just came out of my mouth. She's like, "Why don't you ask my bank, why don't you ask my banker?" She didn't say conservative. What he thinks. You know, I'm just the Irish Catholic. She's the, you know, they thought she was really conservative. And she goes, you might be surprised at what he says. And she put me on the spot.
Yeah.
And I looked at these people that I've known for years, and I said, I guess I got to say it now. You know, I came out of the closet. I'm a conservative Jew. I don't vote Democrat.
Wow.
It ended the conversation, and people scattered like a light turned on, the cockroaches left, ran off.
Wow. You know, I can't say I had a coming out as conservative moment because I still think I'm an extremely liberal person. I usually tell people when they say like, "Oh, are you conservative?" Whether it's a conservative asking me if I'm one of them.
You're like a half breed. You're like a liberal slash.
No, you know, I don't even like calling it a half breed because I reject the dichotomous spectrum. What I am is I am a transparencyist. I'm a truthist and a transparencyist, and sometimes that truth is I'd say most of the time I actually find it on what people nowadays consider the modern conservative side. But what people also don't realize is Republicans are wildly liberal. If you look at what the term liberal actually means, we have a representative government. We don't have a bloodline government of nobility and inherited ruling rights. All right. What true conservatism is like feudal Europe, where the Pope chooses who is going to be king and is imbued by the declaration and the decree of God. All right. You know, so this idea that we have a bicameral legislature that's made of representatives who are voted democratically by the people as the ones in charge is wildly, at least from a historical perspective, liberal. Now, the most conservative socially amongst them are the Republicans, and oftentimes they say, oh, I'm very conservative. But if you ask your average Republican, hey, should we be ruled by a king? They don't say yes to that. They say no. So I don't know.
The Democrat might say yes.
Yeah, they might.
They
We already got a
yes.
king.
They believe in that dictator.
They don't have a king, but they have a savior,
oligarchies.
Barack Obama.
Yeah. They have a savior.
So it's like when people ask, like, what are you? I have difficulty answering that question because am I Republican? Yes, there's a huge part of me that's Republican, a very proud heritage of my family of being Republicans that fought for abolition. People don't realize this, but besides my mother, I'm the closest living blood relative that exists on this earth of Clara Barton, the founder of the American Red Cross.
Wow.
That patched up Northerners, Southerners, black, white, freedmen, slaves,
and see,
everybody.
I have a similar problem with that identification because honestly, I don't identify as a conservative. I don't identify as a Republican. Definitely not a liberal or a Democrat. I identify as a free thinker, like literally just as an autonomous being. And however that is in alignment with, it happens to be a lot in alignment with conservatism.
Yeah.
But I'm open to new ideas. I'm open to
Always.
Yeah, I'm open to righteousness. Put it like that. Like that's a good one. I'm on the side of instead of Republican or anything, I'm gonna have a new party called righteousness.
I look at it
if
so
it's right, then I'll be with it. If it's wrong, I'm not with it.
That's a great word. I'm a registered Republican. Yes, I do use the word conservative to me, but at the end of the day, and I think I have it on my Parler profile, the first word is God.
God. Yep.
I'll look at a new idea, but then I'm going to tie it back to my biblical foundation too.
God is the guiding point.
I am a
for
child.
all
We are all
decisions.
children of God at the end of the day, first and foremost.
Well, and also, the reason why that's so important is there's a huge amount of liberty that is given you once you come to that realization.
Yes, it is.
Because the Greco-Roman understanding of liberty wasn't this free-for-all of hedonism. It was actually the idea of peace through strength, the idea of liberty and freedom through discipline to certain ideals. Like you will have the freedom to run wherever you want in a 26-mile radius if you train every day to be able to run the Greco-Roman marathon, right? So the idea of liberty back then was slightly different in its understanding than it is now. But when you realize that I am first attached to these values, then you don't worry so much about the party as much as the value. Because, for example, I'm huge on UBI, which meant I was associating podcasting with and promoting a lot of people that had other ideas I did not get along with and were Democrats. Because right now, the only place where people are really talking about UBI seriously, even though it was passed by a Republican Senate in 1969, passed by a Republican House of Representatives in 72, adopted by Milton Friedman, endorsed by Richard Nixon, and was the precursor for the oil dividend in the most red state of the union, Alaska.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying? It was UBI idealism that actually gave them their $2,000 a year dividend from the oil pipeline. Even though it's a wildly, heinously Republican thing, since we've forgotten about it 2 generations later, it's perceived as a progressive Democrat thing. But because I understand the universality of it needs to be as unconditional as the love of God is for every one of his children, and that's the only way it will work. You know, I feel more mentally freed up to speak with Democrats when it's necessary. With that said, 99% of the time, Republicans have it more morally right than Democrats do.
We did because and you touched upon it, going back to the Greco-Roman and so forth. A lot of it really simply goes back to the fact that you had the 10 Commandments, but then Jesus, the golden rule, do unto others as you would have do unto yourself. And a lot of that had that foundation. But yes, Republicans get that. The Democrats don't. You look at the voting, the stuff that's going on in Georgia. Stacey Abrams is up in arms at the bill that just got signed, the election integrity bill, because you can't give water and food to the people. But she's okay with giving gift cards out.
Right.
But she's pissed that you can't give water.
You guys even
so you're
just
not
noticed,
being, Stacey, you're not being equal again.
Yeah, and just in
you're
general,
not treating everybody
it seems
fairly.
that Democrats are the party of anti-God. They want to take God out of everything. They try to avoid even saying the word God.
Hypocrisy came out of the golden rule, really. Maybe I'm just sort of making that up. You're right. They are anti-God, and so, hey, what you have to do, I don't.
Exactly.
But you do.
Well, their God is money.
Yeah.
That's Democrats' God. Money.
Actually, I would say
and
it's
power.
I think it's power. It's not money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The god of the corporations that are running everything is money, and then the god of the DNC is power.
Yes.
And by the way, that's not to say that there's not Republican douchebags.
Oh, that's true too.
Oh no,
But-
the head of
got
the
this wrong,
RNC,
too.
right, whatever her name is, the one that's related to Romney. She's a rhino.
Wow, yeah.
All right, cool. That was fun.
Yeah,
that was fun.
that was great.
You
That
came
was
out,
good.
Lucas.
We
Good
each
job.
know our coming out moment. Yep. So don't hate me when you see my ideology.
You ain't black.
And you ain't black.